lesson. So we're going over elbow escapes this time. So elbow escapes are a bit more of the technical approach to kind of getting out of mount, especially if you're the smaller grappler. The first little part that I want to mention is we're already in a safe position at this point, okay? Which means that whenever someone mounts you, if you can get into a habit of having a frame on our partner's hips and a good body position, your likelihood of doing the elbow escape goes up by quite a bit. So if you can just always kind of recognize this as your safe positioning for mounts, I want you to be confident that you're gonna be able to at least kind of like threat the escape a couple of times. You might get shut down, but it's what you're gonna go for, right? Now, there are a couple of complications that might mess up with your elbow escapes, and one of them is the grapevine, where people kind of hook your legs from mounts, and their goal is to stop you from bridging and kind of moving you about. It's really sticky sometimes, so I lose all the power out of my bridges from it. And that's why it's a good technique to control someone from mount as soon as they get there. And to kind of avoid it, your best approach is trying to stretch your legs out and be really heavy on it. Sometimes you'll be able to just kind of like clear it straight away, or at least clear one side so that you can use your legs to help out the other side after. And as soon as we clear it, this is the secret to the elbow escape, is if we can get our legs in between our partners without being on top of their calves, usually that's a good elbow position, elbow escape kind of threat. So again, being on top of the calves here is good for bridges and all that kind of stuff, but not so good for elbow escapes, because you can see I jam myself in place. So what I want to do is get onto my side so I can get my thigh completely kind of sideways, and that will also help me out getting this hand to the inside and creating a frame on the hips. And now we're in a good elbow escape position. If I can crunch up and avoid being kind of like flattened out, it's even better. And your standard elbow escape, we use our elbow here to push the thigh, slide our knee up, and then if we can scoop this all the way through, we'll end up in half guard. Try to stay with an underhook and then get a punch block on the opposite side. And now we're good to go to play our half guard technique. So again, that's your standard elbow escape. We've got a frame, I get onto my side, I try to stuff that leg in. Now sometimes you won't be able to stuff the leg in straight away. That's where we have like a couple of feet drills to work on. One is we can scoop this leg and insert it through. And then from here, we're trying to elevate the knee. This knee can be super heavy sometimes. So I'm gonna pinch my knees and kind of make a lever with my bottom leg to elevate the leg. And now the leg becomes a lot lighter to stuff to the inside. Again, underhook, try not to take this out. A lot of beginners, you tend to take this out and then give the person an underhook, which is going backwards. So just get onto your side, punch block, and then use your half guard techniques from there. Your third kind of elbow escape footwork drill is this, what we call a little sticky hook, which is we try to elbow escape sometimes and the leg is really far, we can't stuff it in. I try to grab it like this and I can't find it, so instead I'm just going to use my shoelace, then grab it and then try to stuff it in. So again, 3 little footwork drills that you will need to work on to get some good elbow escape kind of techniques. So the first one is we try to slide through. If we can get that, happy days. If we can't, we're going to supplement our secondary leg to try to trap it. Remember to use that lever to lift the knee and then stuff it through. And then the third one, we try to use that foot to kind of fish for the toes, maybe grab it while we're securing it and then stuff the knee in. Now, that's kind of like a best case scenario where I was able to get a good frame at the beginning, a good elbow positioning, so we should be happy with our elbow escape attempt. But a lot of times our partner will start off with a crossface and an underhook on us, so we won't be able to get that perfect elbow position straight away, you see. So this is where we're gonna have to use a bit of the bridging and kind of movements to try to get to those elbow positions. Right now with my right hand, I do have the freedom to start bringing it across already, right? Unless Tamara slides this leg up really high and now I've got my arm isolated. So really pay attention to those arms. I don't need to try to hug your partner. The only time we go up here is for bridges. But again, we're working on the elbow escapes, so all we're thinking about is trying to get this arm inside. So we're gonna have to go to the panic button a little bit. So sometimes you're gonna have to bridge just to get that elbow in position, then do more bridges to try to like escape this elbow, and then get into our perfect elbow position from there. And now we have a good chance at stuffing that leg and getting our position. All right, so that's our standard elbow escape. It's probably the golden technique you want to kind of develop, because it is a lifesaver. And we had an early kind of a session on it in the first little lesson. We talk about getting it early on, so really think about those as well. We do have some old school approaches to the elbow escapes as well. So back in the day, sometimes we used to teach it with a double hand push. It's still valid, right? And it's great against scenarios where Tamara is literally sitting up like this, trying to go for like arm isolation drills. So in those scenarios, we can just big push and just try to stuff and shrimp our hips out and make her kind of let go of the position. But again, I'll still focus more on this, to be honest, and just getting onto our side and going into our elbow escapes. Now, one of Tamara's very common kind of avoidance of the elbow escape is to modify. So as soon as she feels you getting onto your side, she'll slide up, and her goal is usually to get underneath this arm to trap this and then go for arm locks, back takes, etc. from there. So knowing this is a big thing for mount escapes. So if I already know that this is one of the opportunities she has when I turn into my side, I'm gonna really focus on hiding this arm. So as I feel her moving, I'm gonna try to sneak this through this little gap that she has, and we call this a backdoor, which is essentially is I'm just gonna punch her up and then try to go belly down right up on top and possibly sneak behind and get up behind our partner like this. It's a great way to get out of modify, but again, you have to know the modification is coming. And pretty much every time you go to an elbow escape, you should have that in mind, because it's a high probability. I go like this, she modifies, I sneak that hand through. Try to also control this leg, because one of her very common counters is to just take this out and go to a knee on belly. And now I've got my arm trapped, and then I try to take this out and she'll just go back to mount again. All right? So, but we can prevent that just by controlling the foot. So if she tries to bring this back, we can push forward, we can kind of sneak underneath and get around from there. And that pretty much concludes our elbow escape lesson. That's the techniques I would encourage you to get really like good at, because it is the more technical approach. You won't have to rely on those bridges. It will make your life a lot easier if you just recognize you're in that safe position with the frame across. All right?